Alright, so we're starting the recording, playing the tutorial of Gloomhaven. So, we'll see how this goes. I kind of know how to play this. There's just some things that I don't know if it's that I'm not grasping it completely, or maybe, I don't know. Just some things I seem to miss. I can never seem to get past my second part, but I'm going through the tutorial right now, so let's see. Okay, looks like the Brute is going to have to fight his way out of here. In Gloomhaven, the first thing you do each round is to pick 2 ability cards. I already know that. Since the Brute needs to get across the room to deal with the Bandit, you'll need to select a card that lets you move at least 4 hexes, and a card with an attack to try and take this guard down. You can look through your cards by mousing over. Okay, so I do know that if I choose these cards, like say I choose Provoking Roar and Grab and Go, I get to use 2 cards, but if I use, like say I use the move 4 under Grab and Go, then I could only use the top portion of the second card, and vice versa. So if you choose the top portion of a card, then on your other card you could only use the bottom portion. Or these right here, a default attack replaces this top one, or default move replaces this bottom one. So it's telling me to select Provoking Roar and Grab and Go, and then end my selection. Now, I know it does something where it takes up the amount enemies draw their ability cards. Something like whatever your cards total to, the one with the lowest count goes first, and then it goes up by amount. So if you have 2 of your players and 4 enemy players, I believe it takes all of them and will randomize. So if I have the lowest number, I'll go first, and then say one of these enemies have the next lowest number, they'll go, and then my other character has the next lowest, and they'll go, and that's how it goes. So planning on shielding himself, retelling him, but because you chose to act quickly with an initiative of 10, he won't have those active until after the Brute's turn. So because I have 10 and he has 15, I go first. So now it's time to act. Each half of the card represents an action compromised by 1 or more abilities. You get to use 2 actions per turn, and you can pick any of the 4 card halves on the left to use as your first action, but note that you must then use the opposite side of the other card for your second action, which is what I was explaining. In other words, here you can choose the top half of Provoking Roar and the bottom half of Grab and Go. Okay, or the bottom half of Provoking Roar and the top half of Grab and Go. Now, as the Bandit Guard is on the other side of the room, let's choose the bottom half of Grab and Go to get over there. So I will choose this, and I will move my character the 4 spots here. I will confirm the movement. Alright, do you see how Grab and Go has become all gray and smoky? This is to show you that Grab and Go has been discarded now that you have used one of its actions. This means that you can't use it again until you recover it back to your hand. More on that later. The Brute is up close and personal with the Bandit Guard now, so it's time to give him a taste of your steel. Hit him with the top half of Provoking Roar. So I will do this. I will choose his area, confirm the target. Every attack you make draws an attack modifier from your modifier deck, and that value will be applied to your attack. Okay, so where is it? In this case, you can see above the Bandit Guard that you do a +1. Okay. Attack modifiers, there we go. So that makes 2 from Provoking Roar plus 1 from the attack modifier, thus dealing a total damage of 3. which should kill him because he has 3 hit points. You can hover over the crossed swords icon in the top left of your ability card to see what attack modifiers you have left. Let's do that now. Alright. While mousing over this icon, you can see how many of each of the 7 base attack modifier card types there are in your deck. Each modifier value has a number of filled in or grayed out pips below to indicate how many of that modifier is still left and discarded respectively. Whenever you draw a ×0 or ×2 modifier, the modifier deck will shuffle the discarded cards back in. Okay. By the way, do you see that gold on the floor that the bandit left behind? You can pick it up. To pick it up, you need to perform a loot action. These can appear in ability cards with a number indicating the radius around you that you loot. However, if a player character ends their turn on gold or a chest, they will loot that hex for free. Perhaps you will get some gold out of this escapade after all, if these bandits don't kill you first. Alright, so cameras, rotation, mouse zooms in and out. Let's go to the next round, so continue. And let me actually zoom in and see how. Not bad. I think it looks a little cel shaded right here, especially his sword, but overall, really good graphics. Zoom back out. And the brute's turn. Right, back to the matter of getting out of here. The brute is looking a little worse for wear. And with no monsters in the current room, now's a good time to rest and get some energy back. Or rather, some cards. See, this is where I get confused. Long rest, short rest. Because the way this game works is if you run out of cards to use, then you basically die. You only have a certain amount of cards you get throughout the game. Now this was just a round. This wasn't a game I don't get anything back. Once I complete, let's say, this dungeon, then I will get all my cards back and it's like you start fresh. But you really don't know how many rooms there are, how many enemies there are, and if you don't use your cards wisely, then you'll lose the game. One of the things that really upset me as well is even if you have 1 card left and 1 enemy left, and you kill him using that last card, you still fail because you had no cards to keep you alive. So, let's get back to this tutorial. During ability card selection, if you have at least 2 discarded cards, then you may perform a long or short rest to recover some of them. All the brute's ability cards are currently discarded. Long rest doesn't count as a card, and as such, he will have to rest to continue. Okay. Short rest will burn one of your discarded cards at random, losing it for the rest of the scenario, but will recover all other discarded cards before continuing your turn as normal. So you can recover cards to use immediately in this very turn. Okay, so a long rest basically takes up your turn, where a short rest doesn't. A short rest will let you burn a card, which means you'll never get it back until your next dungeon. But you'll be able to get cards back to use immediately. Long rest takes up the whole turn and is used instead of selecting 2 ability cards, giving the character an initiative of 99, which basically means that's your points up here when you pick cards. Like I was telling you, the lower the number, the faster you go, or in turn order. 99 is the maximum, which means that you'll go last. But you really don't do anything because you're doing a rest. However, you not only get to choose which card to burn instead of it being at random, but the character will perform a heal 2 action and refresh all item cards. Doing that in the midst of enemies tends to be a risky move, but with no enemies in here right now, let's have the brute go for a nice long rest. So basically, I am going to do a long rest. I'll gain 2 health back. It'll refresh all my item cards. But I get to choose what card to destroy. So, which still kind of sucks. So I'm going to do the long rest and then end. Time to choose a card to lose, which is never an easy choice. Grab and go may look weak, but the mobility it offers could be important. For now, let's just burn Leaping Cleave. So Leaping Cleave would normally do attack 3 on 2 enemies if they're side by side here, and grants 1 XP, or it does a move with a jump. So let's select this and I will burn it. So I will no longer be able to use that card in this dungeon, or as they call it, a scenario. So I will end my turn now. One of the most important tactical movements when exploring dungeons is when to open doors. When a door is open, all enemies in the next room are immediately added to the initiative track and will act this round. You do not get to finish the current character's turn, however, even if an enemy with a lower initiative is revealed. So I think that means that once you open up the door, it activates whatever enemies are behind that door, which can cause problems, because say you have a character, he kills someone, your next move you use to open the door, but say your other character here hasn't gotten any moves. Once you open those doors, I believe the way I read it, if it's correct, is that if there's an enemy in there with the lower initiative than his, which is the number I was talking about, he'll be able to move before I will be able to move. With that in mind, you want to look carefully through the cards available to see what your options are. You can hold down the Alt key to see, and I think, yeah, so, okay. You can hold down the Alt key to see the current character's full hand of cards all at once to assist with decision making during card selection. Feel free to try this now before clicking continue. So I will hold Alt and it brings up all my cards. I can read them all. So instead of having to go through them like this and remember them, just hold them here and you kind of can see and decide which ones you're going to want to use. In this scenario, let's choose Spare Dagger and Grab and Go. We can open the door using Grab and Go's bottom half, move to safety with the remaining move points, and hopefully be in range to throw a Spare Dagger at some nearby enemies. So we will continue. We will use Spare Dagger and Grab and Go. Now see, that's 27 and 87, but it's going to base my number on the lowest card. Where have I chosen this, that would have put a 10 here. It's not going to let me because it's a tutorial, but anyways, click end section to continue. Okay, so I'm going to move 4. Now this is 2 spaces to move, so I will move here. I will open the door. There's 1, 2 enemies that I can see. Third enemy must be somewhere in the shadows or something. Either way, so what a surprise, more bad guys. Before doing anything else, let's check out what these enemies are doing this turn by either hovering over their portraits or their figures themselves. Let's start with the Bandit Archer. Here's the Bandit Archer. Just a ranged attack plan from the archer, no moving. Good to know. Let's look at the Bandit Guard now. So you can see down at the bottom, he's going to attack me for 3 points, and he has a range of 5, which means he can hit me anywhere within 5 spaces as long as it's not blocked. So Bandit Guard, he's going to move 1 and attack me for 3. So if this is the Bandit Guard here, move 1, attack 3, yeah, so he'll be able to move here and hit me. That's the archer. Oh, there wasn't 3 enemies. This is me, sorry. The guard intends to move and attack, but he will only be able to move a single hex. Now that we know what the enemy is up to, we can make informed decisions about how best to finish the remainder of the brute's turn. Our best bet is to get the brute out of range of the guard's move whilst getting as close to the archer as possible. She doesn't have a move this turn, so if we move the brute next to her, she will have to range attack from an adjacent hex and incur a disadvantage. So the closer you are to a ranged attack, I guess there's a disadvantage. So I don't know if that means less points or less modifiers, but we'll see. So meaning she'll draw 2 attack modifiers and apply the worst one. Okay. From there, the Bandit Guard will still be in range to be hit by Spare Dagger top half, yet unable to reach the brute to attack back this round. This plan should minimize the amount of damage the brute takes this round, whilst still getting a good amount of damage in. Let's do it. So we're gonna move here next to the archer. Then this guy here will only be able to move to these 2, so he won't be able to hit me. So I'll move here, confirm my last 2 moves from that card right here, and now we're gonna do attack 3, range 3. So range attacks allow you to hit enemies further than 1 hex away, but as mentioned when entering the room, you will incur disadvantage if you try to use a range attack on an adjacent enemy. As you can see, the archer now has a flashing disadvantage icon, which is right there. Indicated this to indicate this, and the attack preview above her head is in purple, which means her attack says 3, but it's at a disadvantage. Continue. Since the Bandit Guard isn't adjacent to the brute, let's throw the Spare Dagger at him. So we will click here. Oh, gotta click here first. So click here, and confirm targets. Aha, see that? If you had attacked the archer, the critical hit times 2 modifier would have been discarded. Not that we knew, mind you, but minimizing such eventualities is a good way to play. So, I guess I got a double damage. He was doing 3 damage, so we got 6 damage, and I believe he is dead. Okay, so I'm going to end my turn now because I've used up all my cards here. And the archer is going to go. So, damage was only -2. So, phew, that could have been nasty. She very nearly dealt you 5 damage instead of just 1. Okay? You can see why trying to give ranged enemies disadvantage when you can is a good strategy. However, if an enemy with a ranged attack has movement before the attack on their turn, they will back away if possible first. Continue. Now, unfortunately though, 1 damage still got through. So my health is, I guess it's not showing it right now. Well, here we go. No? I guess I'll see it in a minute. When damaged, you choose to either lose that much health, burn one available card, or 2 discarded cards. It's usually best to only burn cards when it's very high damage or if you really have to. So for now, let's just have the brute take the damage. So you get to choose whether you want to take the damage. I could choose to take the 1 damage. I think this is my hit points right now, 4. And you can see here, their hit points is 4. I am missing some, but I think that's why it said that I was weary earlier. So I could choose to take the 1 damage, or I could burn a card, which I'll have to get rid of a card, so I don't take the damage. Or I could, if I had cards in my discard pile, I could burn 2 of them. Again, you run out of cards, you lose the game. So getting rid of cards is really your last option, I would say. So I'm going to receive the 1 damage. Yeah, my hit points went down to 3. Just the archer left here now. Let's go early and play a nice little trick on her using that handy trap on the floor. Okay, so here's the trap. And I should be able to figure out a way if I could do a push or if I could do a damage that pushes back. I could choose to push her into the trap, which would cause her even more damage. So I will do Provoking Roar, it says, and Sweeping Blow. Now you see that's a 10 and a 64, so my number's going to be 10. That's my lowest card. Whatever they choose, that'll be their move. They get 2 cards as well. So, end selection. They chose 31. That's their number. Looks like she's planning to move and attack this round if she even gets a turn. Right, so I go first. So, using Provoking Roar, disarming attack on her first, that'll both weaken her and will prevent any attacks back should the rest of the plan go Ari. However you say that word. I know what it means, just can't pronounce it. Even if the drawn attack modifier causes no damage to be dealt, she will still gain disarmed condition and be unable to attack the brute back. Okay. So I'm going to select the top half of Provoking Roar right here. So this is an attacker for 2 and disarm her. Confirm the target. I got a +1 modifier, so I did 3 damage, and this shows that she is unarmed. Another great hint. Now let's move closer to the door and give her a nudge into that rusty old trap. Okay, so I will be moving here. You can see I'll get to move 3, so I'll basically move here. And I'll push her for 1. So any enemy that is around me, once I'm here, any enemies in these will be pushed back 1. So, it wants me to move here instead of here. Doorway, move to the highlighted hex. Confirm movement. That was 2 of my 3 movements. And I will skip my movement phase because I'm going to want to attack her now. I'll confirm it. Oh, gotta choose that and tell it to push her into the trap. Confirm push. Ouch, that's gotta hurt. Through careful positioning and planning, you can often find creative lines, like the one to beat the odds, even when seemingly outnumbered. I will end my turn. Time to check out the next room, but the brute has no available cards remaining, as you can see here. Long rest is not a card. It's there like a card, same with short rest, but it's not considered a card. Let's long rest again to get some cards back. So we're going to long rest. And end selection. Now I have to burn a card. Let's burn Provoking Roar. It's as its bottom half is of no use to us right now, and the top half is comparable to some of the other cards. So Provoking Roar, attack +2 is 2 plus disarm. attack 3, ranged, attack 2, and loot 1. The bottom one, any enemy who targets one of your adjacent allies with an attack this round targets you with the attack instead. So I guess this is kind of like a taunt. So instead of them hitting one of your other players, they will attack you. Okay, so we're gonna burn this. So select Provoking Roar. Compare with some of the other cards. Worth noting now that with I had to turn on my air. It's a little warm in here. Worth noting now that with the Brute's card pool diminishing, if a character ends their turn with fewer than 2 playable cards and fewer than 2 discarded cards, they will be exhausted and unable to act no matter how much health they have left. If all your characters become exhausted, the game is over. So I have to have at least 2 cards, 2 playable cards, and fewer than 2 discarded cards. See, that's where I get confused. So we'll continue. Click Provoking Roar. We'll burn Provoking Roar, and we will end my turn. Right. Let's see what's through the next door. Same tactics as last time. Spare Dagger, grab and go. So, Spare Dagger, grab and go, and selection. I will move. This will cost me 1, and I will open the door. And there are 4 enemies in here. Unless, I think this guy's mine. Wow, look at all the treasure in here, and 3 bandit guards too. So yeah, 1, 2, 3. This ain't gonna be easy. Hang on, who's that in the corner? So it's the Craighart, albeit looking in somewhat rough shape, more so than usual. With him back in the party, we can swiftly dispatch these bandits without issue. Looks like he's going to be up next, so let's finish the Brute's turn. So yeah, so it's me, then him, then the bandits. So if you mouse over the guards, you can see they're planning to move 2 and attack 2. With so few cards left of your own, we need to carefully navigate this last room to avoid exhaustion. Let's get the Brute over towards the Craighart and attack the closest Bandit Guard while we're at it. So I think we're going to attack him while moving over here. So continue. Firm movement. That's my last 3 moves. I know what you're thinking. Spare Dagger is a ranged attack, but the Brute is standing next to the target, and the disadvantage attack is surely not the most intelligent move. Well, on each half of the card, you can also find the default actions for situations like this. To the left and right of the central initiative values are 2 small default action buttons. These allow the character to perform a melee attack for 2, right here, instead of the top section, or default move 2 instead of the bottom section. They are pretty handy when you're in a situation just like this one. Let's attack the Bandit Guard using the default attack button on Spare Dagger. Okay, so I will click here, confirm target. No attack modifier. Only a +0 this time, but choosing not to range attack from adjacent X, you didn't incur disadvantage. And my Brute's turn. Over to the Craighart now. He already has some cards selected for the turn, so let's see how we can best use him. It'd be great if we can move up next to that pair of Bandit Guards and hit them both with Avalanche. But we can't currently reach them with the move abilities available. However, if you look over at the Craighart's inventory, he is wearing some boots of striding. Right here. During your movement, add +2 to a single movement. Great. Let's use them to get close to the two guards now and ping them for a bit of extra damage while we're at it. So we will move 2. Then I have to select the boots. And we'll get them over here. Confirm movement. Alright. Confirm action. So they each suffer 1 damage from here. Many ability card actions are comprised of multiple abilities and effects. These always play out in order from top to bottom. For example, the bottom half of the Craighart's Rumbling Advance is a move ability, followed by a damage ability, followed by an Earth Elemental Infusion. So, here we go. So attack 4, attack 1. What are infusions, I hear you ask? If you look at the right-hand side of the screen, the Elemental Infusions holder can be seen, and it now shows that Earth is currently being infused. This means that at the end of the character's turn, it will be available for the remainder of this round and the next for any character, be it player or monster, to consume in order to augment certain abilities. Therefore, the character who infuses an element cannot use it that turn, as it is only available after the current turn in this round is over. We'll get on to consumes in just a moment. Back to the action now. Let's hit those bandits with Avalanche. Avalanche top half is an area effect, as denoted by the hex pattern that shows you its shape. Right here. If it's a melee area effect, attack, as the shape has gray hex, representing the hex of the Kraken, with the red hexes indicating those that will be attacked. The shape can be rotated about the Craighart using the mouse, so you will be able to line up the 2 hexes to attack the Bandit Guards. Okay, so select this. There's that. And click on. Did you notice that burn icon in the bottom right corner of Avalanche? Top half. Right here. So it can't be recovered. Action with this icon: burn the card instead of discarding it after use, which means you cannot recover them by normal means such as resting, although certain effects do exist to permit recovery of burn cards. Using the default action that accompanies an action with a burn icon would discard the card after you, however. Now, after you end the Craighart's turn, it'll be time for the Bandit Guards to take theirs, as you now have 2 player controlled characters. Note that monsters target first based on distance and then on initiative. So the Brute and Craighart are going to face 1 guard each. End the turn. The Craighart, the damage from the hit would be lethal and exhaust him. In this case, you only really have the option of burning one available card, as the damage would be lethal. Bear in mind that when a character runs out of cards, they are exhausted anyway, so be careful not to burn too many cards too quickly. It is generally easier to regain health points than cards. For now, let's choose burn Crushing Gasp. Okay, Crushing Gasp, burn, Crushing Gasp, burn. 3 damage. I have 5 hit points. You have no choice but for Brute to take damage here. If you burn either an available card or 2 discarded cards, you won't have enough cards next turn and would instantly be exhausted. So I'll choose to take the 3 damage. Once again, the Brute doesn't have enough available cards to even take a turn this round. He's going to have to rest. Sorry, he's going to have to rest, but a long rest will let the Bandit Guard go first, and likely deal enough damage to wipe out the Brute before he could heal. Let's go for a short rest this time. Short rest. Yes. Spare Dagger isn't exactly ideal as a randomly selected card to burn, as you might really need that extra attack on the bottom half. However, once per short rest, you can opt to redraw the random card to burn at the cost of 1 damage. Scary, though it may seem to do with the Brute only having 2 health left. Let's redraw. We know it will burn Grab and Go, as it is the only other discarded card. Now that the Brute has enough cards to take a turn, select Spare Dagger first, as it has the lowest initiative. We need to kill the bandit before he has a chance to attack. Spare Dagger. Sweeping Blow. Continue. Switch to the Craighheart by either clicking him directly, his symbol above the ability cards, or his portrait in the initiative tracker. Click here. Once again, we want to go as early in the round as possible to hopefully get our turn in before the Bandit Guards. So let's select Explosive Punch first. Crater and Massive Boulder's top half are fairly similar, but let's pick Crater just to be safe. We can play around the attack modifiers missing by using Crater's push to finish the guard off on the trap behind him if need be, which is right there. So Explosive Punch and Crater in selection. Yes, 55. So it's this guy, and then the enemy. Lucky for you, the Bandit Guards have drawn a card with greater initiative, so both the Brute and the Craighheart will get to go before them. Let's finish them off. I'm doing attack, selecting the bandit, confirm. Alright, great job. You now have an opportunity to grab that chest before the Craighheart hopefully finishes off the last bandit and the scenario ends. Select the default move action from Spare Dagger and move on to the chest. Player characters perform a loot at the end of their turn if finishing on a hex containing gold or a chest. So we'll move 2, go here, confirm movement, and end the turn. Okay, so a minor healing potion and a Warhammer. During your melee attack, add stun to the entire attack action. Nice haul. Perhaps Craighheart will swap his ill-fitting boots for the Warhammer. They look like they'd fit the Brute better anyhow. Explosive Punch. was selected mostly for the low initiative. It offers little else in this situation. However, as Crater has a strong range attack, let's use Explosive Punch to move away slightly to avoid disadvantage. May as well move onto a tile with some gold while we're at it. So we're going to move 4, which would be here. Confirm movement. Skip the remaining movement. Okay. Good thing we infused Earth last turn, because before using Crater, we want to augment it by consuming the infused Earth element, therefore adding the push effect to the attack. So here, consume the element gives me push 2. Alright. That way, even if we miss on the attack modifiers, the guard will take fatal damage from the trap, just like the poor archer in the room prior. Select the top half of Crater, taking care not to toggle off Consume. I think. Select the Bandit. Confirm targets. Well, would you look at that? We drew the ×0 modifier. If we hadn't planned ahead with this backup push, the guard would have survived the turn. Let's finish him off by pushing him into the trap. Confirm push. And my turn, I'll pick up the gold. Congratulations, you survived the tutorial, but now it's time to take what you have learned into battle. Head towards New Adventure to pick a party and get started. For more information about the rules of Gloomhaven, check out the How to Play section in the main menu or even in-game via the pause menu. Good luck. And that's the end of the tutorial, and people can see how much I actually suck at this game. But thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, let me know. Leave any comments you'd like, please. And if you can like and subscribe, of course, that would help. And I appreciate you guys watching. Let me know if you've gotten this game, if you plan on getting this game, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.